Yay!
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to Corpse Garden Chronicles, where we talk about everybody's least favorite subject and some people's most favorite subject, death, and how we see it, deal with it, and live with it, and write about it.
Yeah.
And
We are live in the corpse garden, or we are the corpses are live, whichever you prefer.
yeah,
I guess it's kind of fitting that I ended up wearing the shirt I'm wearing. I don't know if we can see it. It's my Return of the Living Dead shirt. It's when I got it
nice.
in the dark at the convention.
Oh, hey, it fits perfectly.
I did not know when that got decided on today that we would be doing this. So yeah, it's perfect.
This was not my original plan. The beautiful, amazing people that I had planned to be interviewing tonight had to do alternate things, and may God smile upon them and everything be okay. But for right now, I get the joy of being with Ron and Raz. So, one of my most favorite questions to ask authors is, can zombies climb?
We've talked about that before. It depends on the zombie and the franchise you're talking about. Like, there's actually different types of zombies out there. You got your infected, your radiated zombies. You've got your traditional Voodoo zombies. You've got your Romero zombies. Like, there's so many different ways to be a zombie, and that affects you like physiologically. But in theory, with a massage therapist involved, anything is possible for a zombie.
Interesting.
With the massage therapist involved. No, it's true though. Like, so one of the things I did when I was going to medical massage school is we worked on cadavers, and one of the reasons to do this is one, to learn more about the human body. But yeah, we were able to help out with like mortuaries and stuff, so they could reposition the bodies where they needed them to be. So if you think about like the rigidity in zombies, especially the original Romero zombies, you just gotta loosen them up.
Yeah, I get it. That's awesome.
That's why they were able to run in the remakes. You know, they were able to run in the remakes because they ponied up for some stuff.
So would the massage therapist be living dead as well, or are they just a living person? How are they zombie proof?
I mean, they don't necessarily have to be zombie proof. You just have to be able to hire enough massage therapists and chain the zombies down, and just hope nothing bad happens. There's plenty of us out there. Like there's plenty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Because of a Kate Dowdy chapter she had written in one of her books. The mortuary, the person who was setting up the guy for to be buried in an alternate country, had been using massage technique and whiskey.
Yeah.
To get him to let him get him dressed and get positioned properly. I remember her saying, I can't help you look good if you're going to be hard. And the
Uh,
irradiated
That's interesting.
zombies are the ones that scared me most. Yeah, I'm trying to find the name of the book while we're talking, and another book decided to play. The radiated zombies scared me most as a kid because I lived in Soddy Daisy, Tennessee, and in Soddy Daisy, Tennessee, there's the Sequoia nuclear plant. I
Hmm.
don't know if anybody's heard about that, or you've
I
lived
have.
near have you lived near a nuclear plant, either of you?
I
I've
have not.
been down near that nuclear plant, and I've lived temporarily near one at one point.
So the reason it scared me, I kept on having nightmares where everybody just go dust blown away in the air when it blows up. And they would teach you the plan of what you need to do if it blows up, which ways to go out of town.
Right.
So I'd have nightmares about that and nightmares about it blowing up and then people coming up out of graves and attacking us. Brains, because, well, I watched Night of the Living Dead way too much as a kid.
Send more
From Here
paramedics.
to Exactly. From Here to Eternity by Caitlin Doughty is the book I was talking about, in case anybody was wondering,
Very cool.
because I had to get on Audible because she read it to me. I like when the authors read to me. I appreciate that.
I don't know about living near a nuclear plant, but I'm pretty sure Raz has smoked some nuclear plants.
And I have. Most definitely have. I was just
Ooh,
doing
that is
that during the OHA thing.
always a fun thing to do.
I wouldn't know.
So I haven't done it in a while. I miss the release of not being able to have to deal with things. But so what? Hey, we have a comment. Hi.
Hi, y'all.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Stefan Lear. Does he have a jet? Does he have a
I
daughter named
have
Shanda?
He may or may not want to tell us in the comments. We'll find out. So, anyway, when was the last
I
time
keep,
you took a stroll in the corpse garden?
Oh, wow.
usually a couple times a year. I'll go down to Woodland Cemetery that I'm always telling you guys about. The Veterans Cemetery where my brother is. There's all kinds of different cemeteries I like to go to, and most of them I'll go and visit who I'm there to visit, but then I'll just spend the rest of the day, usually like or at least a couple hours, just exploring. It's peaceful.
I do have an answer for that, actually. In fact, it was just last haunt season. During haunt season, one of the ladies that works for our haunt at Backwoods, named Marla, she allowed for me and two of my comrades that come down from Columbus to stay at her house because it was easier than us having to drive back to Columbus after the haunt every night, since uh, Backwoods is about an hour down south from Columbus, and she lives right there about 20 minutes away from the haunt. So she let us stay at her house, and then she was showing us around uh, uh, Chillicothe, Waverly, Ohio, where the haunt's located. And she loves cemeteries. So she showed us one of the larger cemeteries in that area with a lot of like really old headstones. And it's at the top of this hill. So you can see the whole town. And it was really cool. So that was, yeah, just this past haunt season. So it hasn't been that long.
February 5th. I got a I was given, well, not exactly. My mother-in-law had finally given me one of the things I asked for, and she took me to the cemeteries. I say cemeteries because there was two that we ended up going to see um, different uh, family members tell me about the different relationships and so on and so forth. And I think I had a favorite story from that, and that is always I love learning about the different stories like this couple. Um they had loved each other in life, but his wife would not uh give him a divorce, wouldn't let him leave, but he had had a affair with the lady beside him, the one closest to the footpath, and they had had a kid, and she had given it to him and his wife, but they loved each other so much, even into death, that it actually made my mother-in-law happy that they even got to be laid to rest by each other in death. And I don't know if you guys have heard any stories like that.
I
As
mean,
far as two people being buried side by side, you mean?
Two people loving each other so much that their family finally gives in death that they wouldn't do in life.
I do not. Nothing comes to mind off the top of my head.
Do you have any favorite cemetery stories or dead loved one stories?
I have a favorite cemetery story.
Ooh.
I mean, it's special for me. I don't know if anybody else would get out of it what I got out of it, just because it's somewhat esoteric. But one of my favorite bands has been for a very long time, always will be, is the band Sabotage from Tampa, Florida, formed back in the late '70s, made it big around the early '80s. Early thrash metal band, Sabotage, founded by John Oliva and his brother Chris Oliva. Uh, Chris Oliva died in a car accident outside of Tampa back in 1993. I was living in North Carolina at the time. I was in college, my junior year in college, when I found out the news. Now, I'm just a fan of the band, but I never thought at any point in my life that I would ever be living in Tampa or anywhere in that area and be associated with them.
Mhm.
So after I graduated college, and I did end up moving down to Florida and living in St. Pete, Tampa area for quite a while. And one of the people that I met down there, her name was Leia, and she was the daughter
Mhm.
of a lady that did a lot of marketing and PR for Sabotage. Uh, Real close friends of the band, and through Leia, I got to go to a lot of their shows. Uh, Several of the musicians from Sabotage also have their own side gigs, their own solo projects, and I would go to their shows and then get to hang out with them and drink with them and all of that. And Leia said that she knew where Chris Oliva was buried in Tampa. So she took me out to his gravesite and the cemetery in Tampa. And to me, I mean, it's kind of mind-boggling for me, being this kid that's into this band since I was maybe 15 or 16 years old, and now as an adult in my 30s, having followed this band for so long, and listening to their music and all of that, and I'm standing at his gravestone, you know, and it was just this
That's
very
awesome.
surreal experience. I can't really describe it. It's just this surreal experience with this band that I followed for so long, never having any clue that I would ever be associated with the band in any way. And then I end up meeting them all, getting to hang out with John and drinking at the bar with them, hanging out with Zach Stevens, and partying with him. And it's just it's weird. It's surreal. And
Yeah,
then standing at that gravestone, I don't know. It was just an incredible memory for me. And Chris
that is.
Oliva he had the signature guitar. It was a Jackson Charvel guitar that had his wife's face painted on it. His wife's name was Dawn. Everybody called it the Dawn guitar, and he played it in concert. And I stayed. They did a 10th anniversary memorial show for the death of Chris Oliva in 2003. I went to that show. After the show was over, I stayed in Leia's condo, her mom's condo, with her and Leia. And her mom had that guitar at her condo, and I got to play it and get my picture taken with it. And it was just like, it's like,
Yeah,
whoa. It blows my mind, man.
that would blow my mind too. That is amazing. And he says he has lots. Oh, wow.
Lots of dead sons and daughters. I don't. That sounds depressing.
And may God smile upon you and your family. Uh, he's driven through Chickle. I
Chillicothe.
I used
thank
to spend
you.
entire summers there.
Or as I like to say, Chillicothe.
And we would like to thank you very much. Which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the Allight Menagerie one or the Fate Propaganda or one of the many single author ones we have that are coming out within the next 3 or 4 months? Um, I
I
think
think Raz
one
is
of
busy over there.
No,
that's
not
What
really.
fine.
about you? What about you, Raz? What's your story? I know you got one.
About cemeteries.
Yeah, your favorite cemetery story.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a favorite. It's just something that was a big part of my life for a long time. I've talked before, on and off, and different shows and like pieces of things about how I was homeless for a while. Um, one of these runs, one of my favorite places was to sleep in cemeteries, in specific cemeteries. I had a friend of the family had a mausoleum at Woodland Cemetery, and when they found out I was homeless. Um, they offered me a key to the mausoleum because the families get keys to the mausoleums and stuff, and it was a dry place to sleep. So for better part of a year during all weather, I would basically have to sneak in the cemetery, which me and my friends have been doing for years anyway, and it wasn't hard to do. And you know where all the cameras are and where the security guards are, so it's not that hard. But yeah, I spent the better part of a year sleeping on and off in the cemetery. And there was another cemetery on the other side of town that if for some reason I just couldn't get in or I just didn't feel like sneaking in, I would go and stay. It's one that's open all night. It's I don't want to say the name of it because I don't want people going there and like screwing around, but it's one that's one
Mm-mm.
of the rare ones in the Dayton area that's open 24 hours. It's not gated. It's a lot of cameras, things like that. But I have family buried there, and they've got like a memorial thing. It's open, so that kind of sucks, but at least it has a roof. So when
Mhm.
things got I couldn't get into the other place, I would go there and stand in the memorial sometimes. But it's weird when you actually. I mean, it's one thing to live next to a cemetery. I've done that before too. But when you're living, on and off in a cemetery for any portion of time, you see it differently. There's I already
Mhm.
had an extreme amount of respect going into that situation, but like actually doing it there, like you learn a different kind of respect. And instead of just I respect the dead or what have you when you go and visit a cemetery, there's a different level of respect and an understanding of why you should respect than just going to one occasionally. There's a lot of things there that happen, a lot of interesting things.
Oh yeah. And there's something to be said just about the calm about just going and sitting there and spending hours either doing nothing, sleeping with your favorite loved one on their grave, or just
Done
reading.
that before. Yeah,
Just get away from everything.
it's the most peaceful thing in the world. Honestly, I mean, from what I found, and that's not me being like morbid or or whatever
No.
people might think. It's a fact. People go on picnics in some cemeteries. Woodlawn, there is actually a picnic area. Like there's a kind of peace you can't find anywhere else doing anything in the world other than spending time among the dead.
There's
They're a
many
great place
cultures
to read because they're so quiet.
there's many cultures across the United States and other countries that believe you should go visit the dead. You should have a picnic with them. You should just go sit and talk with them. And
Mhm.
I think I that was one of my favorite places to be when I was a teenager, especially where I was living before my dad died, because that was like the one guaranteed place where it was calm and nobody had anything to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get the opportunity to spend as much time in cemeteries as I would like. I really think that if I actually lived closer to one, I would spend a lot more time there than I do. There's just not one near me.
Yeah,
Being an adult just gets harder and harder.
Yeah.
it really does.
I sent you that pic, Jenny, if you're curious.
You sent me the
Hmm.
there it is. Hold on a second and I can I wrong one. That one. Okay. Let's try this again. Isn't that awesome?
Look how skinny I was.
You also
I,
had more hair and darker
I
hair.
had just woken up. That was a very early Sunday morning. I had just woken up. So that's September 2003 is when that picture was taken. Yes, it was that long ago.
Oh yeah. 2003?
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. It seems weird that that's like 21 years ago.
I know. All my hair is gone now. That is proof that I did have hair at one point, and I was much, much thinner than I am now.
I didn't doubt that you had hair and at one point you were younger, but dude, as I think about it, I remember this one day where going to bury my grandmother, where we're in a beautiful wooded area in Athens, Georgia, and it's raining. And
Mm.
I understand that grandma's dead, but I don't understand why everybody's crying because she's standing there. I'm like, I realize she's in the box, but I also realize she's over there standing by my uncles. And I couldn't understand why everybody was crying since she was still there. You know, it's being young and figuring out death and then going through all the different ages. I has it ever for you seemed easier to grieve or work through things or just some days worse?
Hmm.
I mean, some days are definitely worse than others,
Hmm.
for sure. It depends on birthdays, anniversary, days like that when you think about it more. But honestly, anytime that I'm already like down or I'm worried about something or stressed out, that's usually when my thoughts will turn to that sort of thing a lot more often. And I think that's probably the same for most people. You get depressed, you start to think about death, and that leads into the people you've lost, and there's the whole rabbit hole you go down, and everybody handles that differently. I tend to write more when I'm in those phases. I write certain projects more than others, I guess. I'll listen to certain music. Sometimes that helps, but I mean, at the end of the day, nothing really helps or pulls you out of it. It's just you're getting back in touch with it because you're at a vulnerable spot. Whereas a lot of the time you spend try not to think about everything you lost so you can, live your life and keep going forward. And it's hard to live your life and go forward on the darker days. So it's just, like I said, it's easier to connect to it.
I've
Going
had
to confess something, which I don't think I've told this story to too many people, but this seems like an appropriate outlet for it. And this was, I don't know, 40 something years ago, 40 years ago, maybe. So I was maybe a freshman or a sophomore in high school. I don't even know if I was 16 yet. Uh, I never knew my grandparents on either side, neither my mom or my dad's, because they had all passed away uh, either before I was born or when I was still very young and had no memories of them. Uh, my Both my father's parents passed away before I was born. Uh, my mother's parents, my grandfather passed away a couple of days before my 7th birthday. So I don't really have any recollection of him. And then my maternal grandmother passed away almost exactly a year after that. So I don't really have any memories of any of my grandparents. So I never was exposed to death or the grieving process until my great aunt Libby, my mom's aunt Libby. Um, Libby to me was my grandparent since I didn't have any and I was very young. So she to me was my grandmother and I loved her to death, literally. We would go visit them for uh, holidays, things like that. And she lived out in a trailer on my mom's cousin's land. Uh, she had cousin uh, Jimmy and Judy Wheeler, and Libby lived with them in a trailer. So when we go there, Libby would make breakfast for everybody. And this is what I remember about her: is the fact that she made these fantastic breakfasts. She was a sweet woman. And then when I'm in high school, maybe 14, 15, I don't even think I was 16, mom got the call that Libby had passed away. And it was around Easter. We had been planning on going out to visit them over Easter anyway. So we were already set to take a trip, but it turned the nature of the trip much darker, more gray. So we went to the funeral service, and I remember it was an open casket. I had never seen a dead body before. This is my first experience with death that I can recall. My mom is bawling. She's in tears, as understandable, as you would expect. And I get it because she meant a lot to me too, as my surrogate grandmother. But I'm looking at her in the casket and I was terrified because it did not look like her. It did not look real. They'd done the best they could to, make her up and make her look natural and all of that. But that was my first experience with seeing no sign of life. I don't know. Maybe it's, I can't really explain it, if that makes sense. Where, you see people and there's glint in their eye, or there's something about them, or there's some kind of movement or breathing, or something that you would recognize that tells you that this person is alive. But to me, she looked plastic. not real. Like it wasn't really her. And my mom was like, bawling, leaning over the coffin, like kissing her forehead and crying. And I get it, but I could not bring myself to touch her.
It's only like
I
one
was
I ever touched. I totally
terrified.
understand that.
I was terrified. So we did the funeral, and they put her in the ground, buried her, and all of that. But now I look back on that, and I get it. I understand, because it's an immature kid that doesn't have any experience with death. But I wish I had gotten over that fear and made that connection with her one last time, if that makes sense. You know, um, I'm gonna jump to another story because it's loosely connected. It's loosely related. My best friend from high school, his name was Chad Hartley. Chad and I, we did everything together. We spent the night at each other's houses. We both played guitar. I played drums, and we would write music together, and we jammed together, and all of that. He was 1 year behind me in high school. So when I was a senior and he was a junior, his mom was a Spanish teacher at the university. Chad spoke fluent Spanish, so he's taking Spanish classes in high school, and I was taking Spanish as well, but I was 1 year ahead of him. Uh, one day in high school, I wasn't in his class, but I was there the day that it happened. Chad all of a sudden started having seizure and convulsed on the floor. Ambulances had to be called. They took him to the hospital, and he was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm, with a tumor. He had a brain tumor, and he had to go through chemotherapy and all of this stuff. They had to operate on him. And I think Chad knew that his days were numbered, that he didn't have much time left. And he told me that he wanted to get through all of the things that he had left to do before he died. So, and he had a list of all of these things that he wanted to complete before he died. He managed to last another year. He lived another year. And I was a freshman in college. I was taking a creative writing class. And I'm about to go to class one day. I get a call from one of my high school buddies, my friend Darren, who was also a friend of Chad's. We all played in the same band. And Darren said, Chad's gone. And I think that at that point, my brain just kind of shut down. And like, I didn't really want to deal with it then. I was like, well, I got to go to class. I'm getting ready to leave for class. So I went to class, and I told my instructor, I said, I may have to leave early because one of my high school friends just died. He was like, that's fine. You do whatever you need to do. So I'm sitting in class, but I can't really focus. I can't pay attention. And that's when it hits me. I know I'm about to lose it. So I just gather up my books and I rush out of the class. Nobody says a word, not even the instructor. Nobody says a word. And I get back to my room and I call my mom, and she knows by this time. Somebody's already informed her. I call my mom, and I just start bawling, burst out into tears. I'm crying on the phone. Mom's there, for as long as it took, all of that. So that was one of the hardest times I've ever grieved in my life, because Chad and I were so close. Then when I get the news about Chad's funeral, I don't know if I can handle it. I don't want to go because I don't know if emotionally I can handle it. Everybody keeps saying, "Ron, you got to go. You'll regret it later if you don't. You'll kick yourself if you don't go to Chad's funeral. You are the closest one to him." And I know they're right. So I go. I go to Chad's funeral. Fortunately, it was a closed casket. I didn't have to see him because all I'm thinking about was Libby and seeing her in that casket and being terrified. And I did not want that same feeling associated with Chad. I don't know if I could have handled seeing him in the casket if it had been opened. I I, I don't think I could have handled that. Fortunately, it was a closed casket. Everybody was there, and then we started sharing stories, and it became very cathartic where I started to relax more and it started to lighten the mood because now we're thinking about the good memories. And it made me so happy that I had gone to Chad's funeral because at least now I had closure. I still think about him because I tend to think that if Chad were still alive, if he had gone on, continued playing music, he would eventually, inevitably, have gotten famous because he was that good. I honestly believe he was that good. I have no doubt in my mind he would have had some kind of career in music or teaching Spanish and university. Probably have his PhD, playing music on the side or something. Have a couple CDs out. I literally, I can see that for him. He would have had some kind of notoriety, some kind of fame. I firmly believe that. And I always told myself that's the reason why I continue playing music because, not only do I enjoy it, but it's also for Chad. It's in memory of Chad. The reason why I keep playing music is because I think it's what Chad would have wanted me to do, continue playing music. But I don't have that memory tarnished by the fear of having seen him in his casket. So my two
That
experiences with,
I
with death, yeah, completely different experiences with both people that meant a lot to me.
that I totally understand. I totally can feel the idea on that with my dad. Stefan says he remembers kissing his sister's forehead 5 minutes after she passed. Even then, he perceived this was no longer his sister. It was
See,
last
that's
year.
that's a surreal feeling right there. That's how do you process that?
Uh, so, my dad died of cancer. He'd had 3 brain surgeries, and he had one last seizure the morning, sometime either before or after we'd left for school that day. And it taken them so long to decide what to do with my dad that he'd sent home here uh in the cold rest area, and he'd blown up by the time he'd gotten home to Georgia at the usual funeral home we have our family go through. And they had a hard time trying to find anything to fit him, and he ended up being buried in a set of blue silky pajamas from Big and Tall. And my I had no idea how to explain to my Aunt Janice, and neither did my uncle, about how bad my dad actually looked. and because he had blown up, he had swollen because of how long it took them to get to the point where they would like figured out whether or not they wanted to embalm him. And part of his head was gone because of the 3 brain surgeries. And that, whenever you told me about how afraid you were looking in the casket, I think seeing my dad that way in a casket was probably one of the scarier events of my life, because knowing all the heck he'd went through to get to that point, the pain and everything. Uh, And now nobody, the last thing everybody would see was that. And they didn't see him trying to explain how things worked, how uh to build like walls, why certain programs work differently on computers, random stories about cryptids or ghosts or other fun things that happened. The last thing any of these people were going to see was how what happened to him. And I'm glad they had a closed casket with him, because when my mom, they were able to give her some semblance of what she looked like. Figured out how to get her hair in that poofy way. The makeup wasn't right. That was not how she did her makeup, but you could at least tell that was my mom there. But the last people to see my dad before the closed casket, well, my uncles won't, probably will be like me and won't be able to get that idea out of their heads about how he was before when he left. I should say not before he left, but before he left and after he left. And I understand the fear, cuz yeah. And the thing that got me started on wanting to do a corpse garden lately was my mom. I've had to explain to Dante. He's 4 now. Keeps asking about his other grandma. Why won't she come play with him? And have to keep telling him that she does love him. She keeps thinking about him and wants to play all his little games. And she has the 2 best grandsons ever, because we can't forget Jasper. And the 3 best granddaughters, because we can't forget your sisters and your cousin, Lexi. And explaining this, having had to also explain this to Cassie, because she still has nights where she wakes up crying because she doesn't understand why Grandpa Ben had to leave, why he got sick. And those are just some of the things that have been swirling in my head lately. Sorry if that seems a little bit too uh, morbid.
No.
Well, I mean, that's what this show is about. So you're
Yeah.
right along there.
Oh, yeah. I think that was the basis of wanting to do a show like this, so people would have an outlet to talk about death. Because not everybody wants to.
Yeah. I mean, it's the older I get, I guess you start to come face to face with your own mortality. And I get this a lot more now because, both of my parents are in their 70s and they are preparing for it, to put it, mildly, I suppose. They've got their life insurance policies and they're making plans and whatnot and what's going to happen to them and all of that. And, I've had these conversations with my parents before. At some point, you know, we don't want to think about it. We don't want to think about when our parents finally pass away, but I know at some point it's going to become a reality. I'm going to have to. And either my sister or I will, we'll have to go down to their house and start sorting through all of their stuff and figuring out what to do with it all. And those are decisions that are going to have to be made. And I'm not really looking forward to it, but I know that I have to. The I guess on the positive side, you know, being older now and a little more mature, a little more wise than I was back then when I'm afraid of my surrogate grandmother and an open casket. Now I'm a little better at processing that kind of thing. So while I know that it'll be sad and it'll be a while for me to mourn, uh, I think that there will be closure. I will mourn the passing of my parents, but I'm a grown man now, and they did a really good job with raising their kids to make us self sufficient, self reliant, and productive members of society. And I can live on my own without, hanging on their coattails when you're growing
Mhm.
up and you need them for financial support or to take you wherever you need to go. These are things that I'm perfectly capable of doing myself now. I'm my own person. So they taught me everything I needed to know in order to survive, you know? So in the inevitable circumstance that I'm faced with those decisions, I'll mourn. I might never really get over it, but I feel like there will be a sense of closure and I will be able to move on, go on with my life knowing that they taught me what I needed to know. And I've had a long, full life with them. And they have led long, full lives themselves. And they still continue to do things that entertain them and all of that. So they led a really good life. That's the one thing that I will know about them is that they led a really good life. Who knows how much longer they've got? I'm hoping for at least another 20, 20 some plus years. They're still relatively young for their ages, so there's no reason why they couldn't live in their 90s. And I hope that I can retire and be able to spend more time with them before the end does inevitably come. And I just want to spend more time with them now.
I'm glad you're an adult at at this point because it's been easier to deal with the ideas of their passing as an adult, even though it happened when I was 12 and 17. Because you are in a position when you're young have to deal with what to happen next with you and your younger sister when you're a kid
Hmm.
and who can take you. And as an adult, you at least know you can stand on your 2 feet and you have friends and you can make choices you wouldn't be able to as a kid about your own welfare.
What about you, Raz? You have any experience in this area?
I mean, I think I see death differently than a lot of people. It could
I
be
have
that.
no doubt in my mind about that, Raz.
I mean, it's different when you grow up, part time on a reservation too. There's a lot of things you see differently than everyone around you, and
Hmm.
in normal living situations. Um, yeah, you do want to make the best of the time that you have with people, and everything dies, man.
Hmm.
Everyone is going to die. Death is not a scary, mysterious thing. It's just that's life. That's in some cases it's the reward for a life well lived. For a lot of people. I mean, maybe not a lot of people, but I know plenty of people that see it that way. That's how I view it. I've
Hmm.
done more shit than most people will do in multiple lifetimes back to back, and I look forward to the day where I can rest. And that's what it is to me. It's I've earned my rest, you know,
I like that.
and I don't see it as a bad thing. I mean, you get to. I mean, I went through the phase where even understanding all this when I was young, I was still worried about death. You know, I was young. You know, that's something you don't think about it while you're doing crazy shit. It's after you survive crazy shit that you're like, oh, I could have died. That could have gone bad. You know, or now I'm afraid of death or whatever. But to me, there was. I think I just kind of skipped most of that fear phase and just looked at it as. I think by the time I got to my early 20s, I looked at the world and I said, okay, I get what the world is. I get where I'm headed. Let's see what I can get out of it. But then I hit 40 and I realized that that was a great but also dangerous way to live my life for almost 20 years. And on the bright side though, like I said, it did force me to live multiple lifetimes in a period of time. And now I can look back at my life and say, I'm ready to go, man. Anytime between now and whenever, I have lived so much of my life so hard that I'm content with what I've accomplished. And that's where I think a lot of people freak out, where they look back on their life and they feel like, I've not left a mark. I've not done the things I've wanted to do. I've not done this or that. And it's because everybody spends all their time thinking they've got plenty of time.
Hmm.
And until you realize you don't, then you freak out. But if you spend your life, especially early, realizing that you can go at any minute and just not trying to live a life without regrets as best as you can, um, that's where it is, man. That's what I think more people should strive to be like. But don't look at it as like in a selfish way, like where I have to accomplish things for myself or fuck everybody else because I'm gonna die one day. Because that's not good. That's not healthy for you. That's not how you build relation or maintain relationships with other human beings. But you have to see like you have to gauge that. Going out for the things that you want and not taking no for an answer and taking life by the horns or whatever. But you also have to know that life's gonna take you by the horns in turn during that time. So you got to figure out how you're going to roll with the punches in your off time when you're trying to go out there and get it or however you want to phrase it. But just look at death like this great reward that you get one day, that everyone gets one day. And when people die, it's okay to cry and mourn them. I mourn people. I have days where I break down just remembering things, but I'm not sad that they're not here. I'm sad because I selfishly miss them and want them here with me now. But I'm happy that they found their rest at the same time. So the tears of sadness become tears of joy, which becomes existential meditation for me. And then I move on and I find ways to keep them in my life where I'm not selfishly wanting them back. Because I don't know if you guys have heard this phrase, but funerals aren't for the living, man. Or funerals aren't for the dead; they're for the living.
Yeah,
When you
that's
Mhm.
true.
die, you're dead, man. We do all these things. We have these parties. We say, well, so and so would have loved this, or so and so would have loved you, or all this stuff. And the truth of the matter is, that's for us.
Yeah, it's to make us feel better.
Hmm.
For me, I am. I'm not afraid of death, or I'm not afraid of the thought of being dead. That doesn't bother me. What I'm afraid of is how I die. I don't want to die a gruesome death. I don't want to be dismembered or eviscerated or any kind of gory, violent, tragic kind of death. I ride my bike. I'm so paranoid and afraid about drive-by shootings or uh, crossing a street and getting hit by a bus or a semi truck, and my body being dismembered and scattered along the road. I don't want to die in a painful, gruesome, violent, bloody way. You know, some people might argue and say, that's a glorious death. But no, I don't want to die that way. That's not how I want to be remembered. That's not how I want people to remember how I died. I want to go out peacefully. If I had my choice, I would rather pass away in my sleep where I don't even realize it. Just drift off and just not wake up. To me, that would be the best way to die. Gentle, peaceful. calm, you know? And so for me, it's more about being afraid of the act of how I die. And I don't really have a choice in that matter. When I was younger, I took a lot of risks. I did a lot of stupid shit that probably any one of them could have gotten me killed when you think about it. It's a wonder that I'm still alive today. But I've gotten a lot wiser because of those experiences, and I'm less apt to take those same kind of risks today because I value the life that I have. I want to go on living. I enjoy life. I enjoy the things that I do. I enjoy helping other people and entertaining and making them laugh. I enjoy teaching other people with martial arts and haunting and all of that. I do all of these things that I enjoy. It makes life worth living. So now, as I'm getting older and I realize at some point I'm going to die, then it's just like, I don't want to die. I want to live as long as I can. I want to live to be 120 years old. I want to live to be 140 years old. Well, who's to say that I can't? Well, it's not up to me. That's the problem.
Mm-mm.
I don't really have a choice in the matter. But I would like to think that I can go for as long as I can, and that I will have made a difference in somebody's life. And they will have something good to remember me by. And it's not because he died a horrible, bloody, painful, agonizing, tragic death. I just, I want to, if I'm going to have to go, I don't care what happens to my body after I'm gone. I'd like for it to still be intact. My parents, I think they're both going to be cremated. I don't care either way. If you bury me, I won't know. I'm not here. I'm not using the body anymore. So what difference does it make? If you're going to bury me, if you're going to cremate me, personally, I'd rather, my body be used for something. If, organ donor, we can get whatever's good, recycle, do whatever. I would always joke, I think just because we're haunters, Raz, you and I have both said this before, just because we're haunters, you know, uh, stuff me and turn me into a prop inside the haunt. That way, I can still be haunting even after I'm gone. So,
Yep.
and maybe my ghost will stick around and make the haunt even more worthwhile.
That reminds me of one of the random things that Raz uh, decided to bring up and have me talk about, and I actually randomly had something to say about it. I don't remember what he said, but I remember telling the audience about how they are using bodies to turn into usable soil for gardening, or decomp- decompost piles in the middle of the forest, just buried and let them be, and see how it actually works when the bugs comes and takes the body, and what they do and the lifespans they live, so it can be used later for forensic science.
Yep.
Or there's sublimation that can happen, and it's a water cremation, or all types of things they can use your body for. Like, I love Dell's where she was talking about how she wanted them to cut up her brain in mini slices so they can see how the different parts of her brain reacted to the brain damage that happened to her when she was younger.
Hmm, that's curious.
But the also, compounding on what Raz said about wanting to leave something behind. That's why I randomly have common sense classes with the kids. There's this fad happening. I know you saw it, and then we'll talk about the fad and what kids or even adults are doing, because why? And I talk about why each part of it is dangerous if there's multiple parts, or why it's the one part is dangerous.
Yeah, don't drink
And
bleach.
don't drink bleach. Don't breathe in the cinnamon, because cinnamon at that level can kill you. There's a difference between the powder that's used in her inhaler when it's activated for her to breathe compared to breathing a spice out of the cabinet, you know?
Hmm.
Or Momo. There's a very big difference between her friend's dad Momo and the thing on the internet that they were using to scare kids. One Momo, I didn't care if she went over to the house and hung out with the kid and he was in charge because he was the dad. The other one, no, not happening. Because uh, I don't even know how that got so big around where I was. But I'm hoping the things I write, my poetry, what I've been trying to teach the kids, these videos that we have been making, our stories, or something to be left behind for others to watch, others to read, for the kids to remember. And what we can come up with to do on the weekends or anything, or something for them to remember. That can be our mark. Hopefully, it is our mark. Hopefully, somebody will come back and look at these shows and understand, hey, it's okay to grieve. It's okay to think about it. However big it was, however small it was, whatever. Scream, cry, talk.
That's interesting. I hadn't really thought about the fact that we're making these videos being kind of like a time capsule in a way for our own stories and our own memories and things like that. Uh, I don't have any kids of my own, and it's highly unlikely that I'm ever going to have kids of my own, but there will be family members that do survive me. I've got two nieces, and I suspect at some point, they're going to get married. They're probably going to have kids of their own, and they'll talk about Uncle Ronnie. And they were like, "Who's Uncle
Hmm.
Ronnie?" Well, Uncle Ronnie, he's passed away, and but here are some videos on the internet of Uncle Ronnie, and I tell these stories, and my book is out there. You know, then go back and watch these videos and find out a little bit about my life and my memories of things that I've experienced and what my view on things were. So, yeah, I think that in a way, doing podcasts like this, the videos like this, it's leaving a good track record for our posterity.
I know a 4-year-old there that is happy that you read to him randomly. I put the Campfire Cinders playlist on. I skip me because it's me reading, but we
Mhm.
listen to everybody else. And I don't feel
What
so
story
alone on
did
some days.
4-year-old hear?
The last one he listened to that we listened to together was the date night one.
Nice. Which takes place in.
Cemetery. But it
Hmm.
had come up first in the line because it's the first one you told with us, I
Hmm.
think, ever, because
Yeah,
we're just going through the line.
that's how I got involved. Yeah, that whole thing stemmed from a writing workshop that my uh, colleague and also professional writer Rami Unger was holding at the library here, and we did a flash fiction writing workshop that night, and that story started with that flash fiction workshop, and I just kept writing on it, and now it's in the book.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I forgot. I have to figure out flash fiction with the next couple of days. Thanks for reminding me.
For the newsletter.
Yep. It's one of those I usually have two parts, but the third part is usually the hardest.
Well, you used mine last time, so
Well, I've used mine a lot, but either way, we are jumping on the usual hour mark, well, past the hour mark that we have on our Wednesday shows. Do you guys have any closing remarks on talking about grief or death?
Raz?
Um, I mean, like I said before, just celebrate it. Celebrate the time you have, make the best of the time you have, and help the people you love and the people around you make the best of the time they have. And I think as long as you're doing that, you'll have fewer regrets in life. And it's not that, losing people will hurt less, but you'll have a deeper understanding and appreciation for both life and death at the end of the day.
The closer someone is to you, even, little Miss Thang here, this one's going to be an extremely difficult one when she finally passes. I know I will outlive her because she's probably about middle age right now in cat years. But she's the third cat that I've had, and my first two cats, they also passed away. And both of those were grieving processes as well. And I said, I will never do it again. I will never do it again. Yet here I am on my third cat. And I know that I will eventually do it again. Grief is just a part of life. And the closer someone is to you and the more they mean to you, the harder it's going to be. But you have to let yourself grieve, or it's always going to hurt
Yes.
and it will weigh you down. But the more you grieve, the harder you grieve, you get it out of your system. It's like a cleansing, and you will feel better and you will have that sense of closure because you let yourself do it.
Yeah.
I agree. Yes, just like Stefan says, it's sort of like joining the Navy. It's a trip to never before seen places.
Yeah, I like
And
that. That's good. Good metaphor.
and I do have one thing to add. Screw dignity. Screw what people think.
Exactly. Yes.
When they die, that person, it's gonna hurt. Scream, cry. You will feel better afterwards. Okay? And if they look down upon you because you grieved, you don't need to be with that person. How you grieve is how you grieve because like 6 years, no, yeah, 6 years into being in Texas, um we were moving and my I was given the swan cookie jar that was my mom's favorite, and Josh accidentally dropped it and a piece broke off, and which we were lucky only a piece broke off. But in the middle of a storage area parking lot, I just started bawling. I didn't care who saw me. It hurt. And she had been dead since 1999, and that was like 2015, 2016 when that happened. And it just hurt because she was gone, and I miss my mom every day. And yeah, it's okay to cry. It's okay to scream and grieve however you need. Just remember, there is light at the end of the tunnel. It doesn't hurt less, just the hurt button gets pushed less as you go along. I think I don't know. Does that sound like a good way to put it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay. And uh where would you like people to find you, gentlemen? Here, there, everywhere?
That sums it up for me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine at some point in my life you'll probably find me in a corpse garden.
Yeah. We'll all end up in the corpse garden or in somebody's closet, depending on certain, because you'll either end up in a corpse garden, somebody's closet, a counter, on a mantelpiece, somewhere. It depends on if you have cremains. And sometimes you'll be worn around a child's neck or your wife's or partner's necks because they miss you. But either way, thank you for joining us. Uh, feel free to, if you want to tell us about your grieving stories, we would love to hear. We don't have to post them on air, but we can talk with you about them and help you with the pain, because sometimes just talking about the pain helps. Thank you for joining us. And remember, it's always peaceful in the corpse garden.